right, we're rolling with that, and then we're gonna go live here. Oh, set them offline. Hang on. What's your thing again? Is it this one? 01Q?
Yeah, a QS.
Okay.
I was going to say, there's a Q in there, and I didn't put it there.
Okay, there we go. And
Q signal. Q secure.
all right, we are. All right, folks, we are on. Welcome to P&K Q&A for September the 27th. I'm Peter.
And I'm Crow.
And we've got some interesting conversations when we get together, so we are sharing them with you. So I think we talked a bit what we want to discuss today, so go right into it.
Yeah, so we started today, so we're just kind of learning as we go and kind of come up with ideas. So today what we did is we actually recorded our preamble offline because, yeah, some of the shit we talk about would just shock the shit out of most people. So, I don't know, someday we might put them up, when free speech is free speech. But anyways, part of that preamble got my mind rolling back towards prayer. And I'd like to actually hear some of Peter's thoughts on this, about the difference, like praying out loud, talking, and just praying in your mind.
Okay. I think it has to do with different frequencies of vibration, maybe, and also. Well, let me just start with praying in your mind. That's good. That's fine. Saying something out loud also can reinforce it or give it a little extra oomph, I guess. I think in one of the Christian part of the Christian thing is to say out loud, like, I accept Jesus Christ as my personal Savior, kind of thing like that. And I'm not suggesting anybody has to do that, but just as an example, I think the reason they had people say it out loud is because it makes it a little more official.
That is definitely part of it.
It's a different vibration. Also, it's maybe a harmonic. Your mind is thinking it, your mouth is saying it. Instead of just your mind thinking it, it's a little easier to be insincere in your thoughts than when you put it to words as well, spoken words, I would think.
People with character, with strong character, words do set in a lot more.
Yes.
People with weak character, well, I mean, their mind and their voice are both, deceiving each other all at the same time. And, but I think you're right, actually you're right on all counts. You're right about the first part. When we pray in our minds, what we're doing is we're exercising our aura.
Okay.
Because when we're praying in our mind, it's the energy that comes off of us, the emotional energy that's attached to the thoughts that we are having. So if we are worshiping in our own mind, in just sitting at the desk, just driving, we are creating this. You're creating this aura around you. Your aura just keeps going out and out and out, and you just become this shining beacon. And and that, of course, will attract angels to you, but it also can attract negative beings as well. But right now, there's so many angels on the planet. There's pretty much an angel on the planet for every man, woman, and child that is calculated to be born and alive at a certain point in the future.
Okay.
And that is not that far out for that. and they are all here because their job at the end, when judgment is served. This will lead into what you wanted to.
Okay.
When judgment is served, the one or two things are going to happen. Okay, if judgment is served in the negative, and this planet is declared unfit for spiritual crop, then all of us that hold the light inside will be taken off planet immediately. Just blink of an eye. They wrap their wings around us, and we disappear from this reality. This is why everybody's going to just like disappear in a blink of an eye. It's because the angel's going to wrap her arms around you. Boom, you disappear because your vibration changes instantaneously to their vibration, and then it's boom, off the planet, 500 miles per second. That's fucking fast.
Like the book series Left Behind. They knew what they were talking about, but they didn't, Anyway, go ahead.
And, and then just like boom. And the people that have rejected the light, they get to stay on the planet. It's all the revelation stuff that you've heard of in movies and all the like of that shit. And but the one thing that they don't tell you and they don't understand is that there are 7 adjunct spirits on this planet. And the 7 adjunct spirits, they are basically what keep this planet alive. Mars used to have 7, they used to have 5, but then something happened to Mars and those spirits left. Well, we have 7, and I'll tell you why we have 7. Here we go, adjunct spirits.
Yeah, does it have to do with the combinations of
The combinations, okay.
Okay, yeah, because I can go through it right now, actually, if it's the same as the 7.
The spirit of intuition.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to read off, and these are quoted directly from the Urantia book. The spirit of intuition, quick perception, the primitive physical and inherent reflex instincts, the directional and other self-preservative endowments of all mind creatures. The only one of the adjuncts to function so largely in the lower orders of animal life, and the only one to make extensive functional contact with the non-teachable levels of mechanical mind. So this is just basically all the instincts for survival.
Okay.
Tells it, it's how animals recognize predators, and and it's what makes us aware. It's it's the hair standing up on the back of your neck. Okay. Then we have the spirit of understanding. The impulse of coordination, the spontaneous and apparently automatic association of ideas. This is the gift of the coordination of acquired knowledge, a phenomenon of quick reasoning, rapid judgment, and prompt decision. This is basically memory. Being able to take and different aspects of reality, be able to piece them together and draw conclusions. So it's like, okay, I remember that oak tree. Okay, now if I go to this side of the oak tree, then that's where the river is. I go to the other side, I'm going to fall off a cliff. Being able to put all that together in your head, come to a conclusion, take the right path. Animals use this as well. Spirit of courage. The fidelity endowment in personal beings, the basis of character acquirement, and the intellectual root of moral stamina and spiritual brevity. When enlightened by facts and inspired by truth, this becomes the secret of the urge of evolutionary ascension by the channels of intelligent and conscious self-direction. Now, animals use this spirit as well, but not at the level that we do. Okay? So this was man's first step of getting away from the animals. The way that we used courage is very, very different from the way animals use courage.
Yes.
The spirit of knowledge, the curiosity mother of adventure and discovery, the scientific spirit, the guide and faithful associate of the spirit of courage and counsel, the urge to direct the endowments of courage into useful and progressive paths of growth. Now, this is I believe we share this one with the animals as well.
I was going to ask how many. Where's the cut that the animals don't get? How many do the animals have that we have additional that they don't get? I guess.
Yeah, I might be mixed up, but let me read the next one, and then we'll talk about it. The spirit of counsel, the social urge, the endowment of species to species cooperation, the ability of will creatures to harmonize with their fellows, the origin of the gregarious instinct among the more lowly creatures. Okay, the spirit of counsel, that would be like herd animals. Again, that's something that we use too.
That's what number 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And then, yeah, okay. Right up to number 5, I believe that we share all of those spirits with the lower animals. Now, these are the other 2. And I also have been shown that, okay, this galaxy is ours. Not only is this solar system ours, this galaxy is ours. Okay? The only other intelligent life within this galaxy are spirit-fused creatures. Okay? They're not quite like us. They're about, like, you know, just like children. They'd be like children to us. Okay? And but they're quite smart and they're quite innovative. Now, but we are father fused. We fuse with the eternal Father.
Okay. Yep.
And so we are meant to go out and we are meant to learn, and these creatures can and learn from us, and we learn from them, and then we experience each other. And we help each other, and we are together we bring the whole galaxy into light in life. That's the idea. When I think of the spirit-fused intelligent creatures of the galaxies, what goes through my mind is, remember that binary race on Star Trek?
Star Trek, the Binars, yes.
Yes, the Binar. I picture them. They're very they are very hive-like in their interaction with each other, and they work seamlessly with each other, and they are spirit fused. So that means that they stay in this universe, and they belong to Michael. We belong to the Father. We just have to choose we just have to choose to give ourselves over. And once we do, then we become the Father. Okay, now these are the ones that are ours. The spirit of worship, the religious impulse, the first differential urge separating mind creatures into the 2 basic classes of mortal existence. The spirit of worship forever distinguishes the animal of its association from the soulless creatures of mind endowment. Worship is the badge of spiritual ascension candidacy.
Okay.
Wow, that just pretty much says it all, doesn't it? Like I said, I mean, whoever wrote the Urantia book is either an absolute fucking genius or it was, as they say, written by the higher personalities, working in conjunction with humans.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no other explanation to this book.
Either is believable, because even in my own writings I've had, nothing like that of, but certain flashes of inspiration for how it is, or even how to do a description of. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
It's
2,000 pages of text.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I gotta say, people. 2,000 pages. And yeah, it took 5 years to write this book. Yeah, still blows my mind when I think about it. And then the other one that we get is the spirit of wisdom, the inherent tendency of all moral creatures towards orderly and progressive evolutionary advancement. This is the highest of the adjuncts. The spirit coordinator and articulator of the work of all the others. The spirit is the secret secret of the inborn urge of mind creatures, which initiates and maintains the practical and effective program of ascending scale of existence. The gift of living things, which accounts for their inexplicable ability to survive, and in survival to utilize and coordinate, and the coordination of all their past experience and present opportunities for the acquisition of all of everything that all of the other 6 mental ministers can mobilize in the mind of an organism concerned with wisdom as the acme of intellectual performance. Wisdom is the goal of a purely mental and moral existence. Now, okay, this one can apply to the animal kingdom as well. So this is where, so the spirit of worship is definitely ours. Okay, there's no argument there. And the spirit of counsel, that can go with, that kind of, goes with the herd. I think the other one that may be ours is the spirit of courage.
Okay.
Because animals really don't have courage. It's either that or we use it a different way. Our courage is very, very different from an animal. I mean, an animal displays courage when a mother's protecting her cub, but that also falls under the instincts of taking of species survival. So that really can't be considered courage. So I'm thinking that spirit of courage is ours, and of course the spirit of wisdom. The spirit of worship. The spirit of wisdom, it's kind of necessary for survival, because that is like memory, racial memory.
Okay.
And animals
Could apply that way.
Yeah. And it's almost like that is like taking instinct and then applying it rationally to the reality that you are faced with. And that kind of makes sense with animals, because they know not to run towards the hungry lion. They know to run away. Anyways, that could be an interesting discussion sometime in the future. So anyways, so the adjunct spirits will get taken up and away. The magisterial son, who is on the planet right now, will take them with him, and they go back to the father. Okay, and they get to rest, and that is about as much as I can say about the adjunct spirits. Now, if we get judged in the positive, and the Father has deemed us worthy to continue on in our spiritual evolution, then the magisterial son just leaves. Not before giving the adjunct spirits a uplift,
Okay.
a boost, a wonderful salutation from the Eternal Father. Okay? Actually, the Eternal Father will talk directly through the magisterial son.
Okay.
That's one of his functions. So he would go and stand in the middle of the Adjon spirits, and then the Father would move through him, and this will uplift the Adjon spirits, of course. And that will leave behind a small piece of paradise on earth. See how it all fits together? And so, and then of course the magisterial son, he will go back to paradise where he is originally from. And so he showed up in August of '91, by the way. Okay, he's been on the planet for almost 30 years, 29 years. He's been on the planet, and he's been walking around. He's been checking us out, been judging us. He's been creating disciples of truth, and he's been using the spirit of truth to help him do this work. And that is how we've ended up in this position that we are now. He was directly responsible. He's not directly, but he definitely pushed for us to have the internet. Definitely pushed. And because he's in physical form, he can interact. And so he definitely pushed for the internet. And it was Bill Gates that was chosen to push the internet forward. Sorry for Steve Jobs fans, but Steve Jobs would not have gotten the job done. He wasn't greedy enough, is what the problem was. He wasn't.
No, I know. I read the biography.
Yeah. Bill Gates was greedy as fuck. And that is what it was necessary to launch the internet in the way that it has been launched. Big, so that, once people figured out that they could make money from the internet, wow, that's when the internet took off. I mean, before that, it was just this novel thing that, techies played with.
$700 for Google on the stock market before.
Yeah.
I don't know what the high is now. Tesla's that. Well, it's more than that now. But anyway, so yeah, the amount of money that can be made with the internet for doing like next to nothing was phenomenal. Still is, I guess. Anyway.
And and then the spin-offs from the internet. It's what's driving our economy. It's driving our economy forward, but it's driving it forward into the toilet. And and the thing is that and because of these big companies, tech companies, they won't free it up. And as long as they don't free it up, it'll never be more than what it is now. But once the internet is freed up and people can start making a living from the internet using their own genius. Forget about welfare. I mean, welfare, it's not necessary. You don't need it anymore. You're only going to need it for like the severely disabled and the severely handicapped.
Yeah, if you can use a computer at all normally, you're good.
Yeah, you'll be able to figure out how to make money. I mean, holy shit, just look at the people on TikTok making money. I mean, how foolish is that? I mean, I watched this video where this girl was talking about people on TikTok. So I was watching a YouTube video talking about TikTok, watching TikTok videos on YouTube. What a fucking world we live in. God, I love this planet. And and I'm sitting there and I'm just like watching. This girl is just lounging around on this couch with a bunch of teddy bears. I mean, mind you, it was done nice. It was like, black lace, and it looked like a fantasy. And I was like, that's interesting. And she was making money just talking to a camera. People were sending in $5, $10. I'm just like, wow. And of course, all I'm thinking to myself is like, this is the new prostitution. Because I was like, she's a whore. That's just like,
I was just gonna ask, like, yeah, okay.
I just like looking at this, and I was like, she's whoring herself. She's not getting laid, but she's still being a whore.
I guess what people are giving her money to look at her, doing whatever
but she's not even doing that.
No.
She's like, oh yeah, I mean, I gotta hand it to her. Fucking brilliant. She uses her voice. Yeah. She's got like certain inflections in her voice that just draw you in. And I was like, wow, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I got a quick aside for that. Again, I'm going to go back to Ram Dass a bit. I listened to the original Be Here Now talks on audiobook, and you listen to Ram Dass talking. It's a recording of him in 1969, I believe. And he and certain people, how do I say this exactly? Several people could talk about almost exactly the same thing, and it's hit and miss whether it speaks to you. But the way that a person speaks and what there's this synergy, and in my own program, Think Positive for Life, I try to get. I could. The words. It's funny. The words aren't what does it. It's the presentation. And I don't know how to describe it any better than that right now. But Ram Dass and this lady Crow is talking about the voice is an instrument. The voice is a tool.
Oh, you
what?
have it. No, there is actually a thing. There is a label for what they're doing.
Charisma.
No,
No.
it's called voice jujitsu.
Okay.
There is a label.
There we go.
Yeah, it's voice jujitsu. Police officers are trained in it.
Uh-huh.
It's so that they can calm a situation. They
Yeah.
use their voice to calm you down. And it does, for the most part, it does
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
It works on normal people.
Mhm.
It doesn't work on the abnormal, but it does work on normal people.
Yeah.
Quite well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Anyway,
I mean, you think to yourself, you know, how can any normal person just, you know, send money to this girl? But it's like, no, voice jujitsu works very, very
Yeah.
well, and you know, it's a form of manipulation. And again, that's what's going on now. We got people using voice jujitsu to try to steer people away from the light.
Yeah.
And you know, and they're being successful. And it's like, I don't know how. I mean, I see what they're doing, and I was just like, you know, it's the shittiest form of voice jujitsu. You know, they're not even very good at it, but yet they're still effective.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only thing I can figure out is that this sounds racist or classist or whatever, but I think it's just a fact. Certain people either have or do not have discernment, discrimination, whatever it takes to, like, you know how a ship has a keel to keep it going in one direction against the wind? Some people don't have that.
It comes down to this. Well, all peoples are equal spiritually. We are not equal physically or mentally.
Right. Yes.
But I stress, we are all equal spiritually.
Yes.
And quite frankly, that's the only important thing. I mean, our physical and mental attributes mean nothing here. This is just where you're born. This is where your soul is born. I mean, we're crop. We're agriculture for the universe. I mean, I know it sounds horrible, but it's true. I mean, souls are born and growing and nurtured here. And then when they qualify for soul survival, they go on into the universe and you spend eternity moving towards your eternal Father.
Okay, yeah, so somebody mentioned something called equality of opportunity. Well, that's the ultimate equality of opportunity. You all have this thing, and you have the power of choice. So really the only choice you have to make is light or dark. Do you want to go up, down, whatever?
Well, we'll use our ancestors' terminology. I mean, it's all they knew, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't understand dimensions.
You
they didn't
get to choose
understand
to
the
go toward the
vastness
light.
of space. Yeah, so I mean, you can either choose to go down or you can choose to go up.
Right, and it's up to you. Every one of you listening to this has that choice, regardless of any other circumstance in your life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's the choice you get to make every moment of every day. every week, every month throughout the rest of your life.
Yep. No, that is no. You said it. It is the ultimate free choice. There's and there are no excuses. There are no excuses. People can't say, "Oh, I'll choose God tomorrow." Yeah, sure, why not? But I mean, you get hit by a bus tomorrow too, and once you leave here, here's the kick in the nuts. Once you leave here, it becomes very difficult to develop character.
Okay.
Once you leave here, this is where your soul grows and your character develops. Whatever character you develop here and now in this life, you carry with you on into eternity. And this is why people are disqualified from soul survival. Is because if you have shallow character, you can't survive the process, the transition, the death, from death to life. You cannot survive that transition. Your soul is not healthy enough, and it just perishes. And no, there is no hell. You're not going to go to hell and burn forever. No, it's just oblivion. I'm sorry, but that's it. In fact, I think that's much worse. You're just forgotten. Is what is all that happens. You're just forgotten and you don't exist.
It's like the what happens. I think it's like harvesting the data off of a hard drive, a computer, or something. Anything interesting that you witnessed or experienced or came up with in your life goes forward into, I don't know what, the collective soul or something, but your individuality is it just goes away. It ceases to be.
And it just disappears. There's three aspects to the human being. You have the thought adjuster, which we have decided that we might get into that, but my God, that's a lot of ground to cover.
Basically, it's a fragment of the universal Father that dwells within each being. Extremely short version of what it is.
Yeah, very short version, but that is the basis. So you have the fragment of the Father, the thought adjuster, which dwells within every human on Urantia that is of normal mind. And the book is actually quite clear about that. Mm-hmm. It always qualifies it with normal mind. So it's like, okay, so if you have an abnormal mind, sorry, you're shit out of luck. But you do have a chance to be spirit fused. If you can convince Michael that you're worthy of that. And, because that's his domain. That's all on him. The Father does not interfere with spirit fusion. That's all on Michael. And so he'd be the guy to talk to. And then the other two parts of this equation are developed right here. Your character and your soul. Now the soul is the seed. It's the root that the thought adjuster and your character join to. This is it's kind of like grafting two plants onto one.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, and that's what you have to do. You have to. I mean, the goal is to graft the thought adjuster with your soul and your character. Well, in the end, you want to fuse the thought adjuster to your soul.
Yeah. I'm going to cut in here. I went to Oklahoma State University, plant and soil science degree, and I think I can give an example of what Crow is talking about. You said the soul is the seed?
Yes.
Okay, so the seed is planted, and it all starts out being the same, obviously, and then there is, what is it called? It's the soul, and then there's the environment. Seed and environment interactions make the individual unique.
Yes.
That's your character.
That's your character,
okay. Yeah.
And these two things must be grafted to the soul, or there is zero potential for soul survival. Zero potential. The thought adjuster is the one that will will argue for you. And basically, here's the shitty part. If the thought adjuster basically doesn't show up to claim you, you're shit out of luck. Your next one is spirit fusion. That's the other that's your other option, and that, like I said, it comes down to Michael. So get right with Jesus, and so yeah, if the thought adjuster doesn't show up before the Nordic fathers, then the next step is like, okay, does he qualify for soul fusion? And then Michael's representative will be like, yay or nay. And then if the thought adjuster doesn't show up and you don't qualify for soul fusion, then you're delegated to oblivion. Any decent memories that you have that are worth keeping are archived. The rest are just discarded. It's gone. It's just allowed to just into the ether. See you later.
It's recycled.
It's recycled. The universe wastes nothing. Absolutely nothing gets wasted. And here's the kicker. Here's the part. The universe doesn't waste anything. Energy and matter, we know in this century, energy and matter are, it's all the same thing.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. So if character and soul is energy, that's matter for the universe. Mm-hmm. So basically, you become fertilizer.
Yeah, guess so.
You fertilize a new solar system. Yeah. Anyways, so if we're to judged in the positive, we have a lot of work ahead of us. A lot of work, because there's going to be a third of the population that is probably going to jump off of a very, very tall building or one of the many, many bridges that exist around the world. These people are going to commit suicide. There'll be mass suicide.
When the full truth is revealed.
They will commit mass suicide. A lot of them are going to get mowed down by either military or militia groups. And so they're just going to be gone. And those that don't suffer that fate will probably suffer a total and complete mental breakdown.
And that's if we're judged in the positive.
And that's if we're judged in the positive.
That's best case scenario.
And that's what that's what the Great Awakening is all about.
So I guess
right now.
Get your minds flexible, folks.
Yeah, because the things that we have been taught by our ancestors are just basically, it was their way of trying to explain a very complicated subject, and they had no reference point.
Yeah.
Not like we do today. And this is why I can, we can read the Urantia book in the 21st century and just be like, have a much, much better understanding, because we can draw on more metaphors and examples, especially in technology.
I think they talk about the Isle of Paradise, which supposedly is at the center of the universe but has no physical place. It's I guess a multi-dimensional thing that
Think quantum level.
is distributed throughout the universe, or every point in the universe contains a piece of it, or something.
The paradise exists at the heart of every atom.
Yes, that's what I'm.
It's at the quantum
coming
level.
to suspect.
Yeah, that's where paradise exists.
You don't go anywhere to get to it except in here.
Yeah, and when they were talking, and think about what our ancestors were always saying: you got to go inside. You got to go inside. They had no other way to describe it. They were hamstrung by their
Buddha,
time.
right? He sat under a tree, and whatever led up to that, he meditated and did this, and he went, I suppose, pretty much all the way, and he didn't physically move anywhere. His mind maybe didn't even physically, it just
His mind
went to a
moved
different
in.
state.
Yeah.
There's no, it's right here. If you're looking for it somewhere else, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
I remember that scene, that part from Dumbo, right? The magic feather, he needed to fly. Well, he didn't need the feather. He found out he didn't need the feather to fly. He had the ability all along.
Yeah.
It's in you, folks. Just it's up to you to decide to look for it, to find it, bring it out.
Now,
Whatever.
while paradise exists at the quantum level, it's not so for the capital planet of our universe. What's the name?
Jerusalem.
No, Jerusalem's our system
Abaddon.
capital. It escapes
The
us
local
right.
one.
It starts with an S.
So- okay.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Anyways, it escapes us right now, but that world, and it's a huge world.
It's a physical. That one is a physical.
That is a
place?
physical place in our local universe, but it exists at a much, much different frequency from us. And it sort of is at the center of the universe, but yet the universe is all around it. And our dimension and that dimension is constantly coming together. And when a whole universe is in light and life in cooperation with the Eternal Father, there is no separation between dimensions. Okay, that is where we are heading, but we are a long, long ways from it yet.
So currently, it's kind of a combination of, thinking Star Trek: The Next Generation. They visited a planet that had a cloaking device or something. It's a combination of that and it being in a slightly different.
No, that was the one where they went to the planet, and the planet was slightly moving slightly faster than they were.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was because up on the ship, they were more worried about the people growing or too old down on the surface, because
Right.
every second that passed was like a year or
Yes.
like a week on the planet. And it's like, holy shit, it's already been 6 months down there. And it's, it's been like
Yep.
2 minutes up here. Yeah, so that's basically how it works.
Okay.
But they're operating at a different frequency than we are. You say, how would our ancestors ever describe that? They couldn't. How could
Yeah.
they? They knew nothing about dimensions. But here in the 21st century, we can use these. But yet, but we're considered heretics for even entertaining such thoughts. I mean, why are we stuck in a ancient spiritual mentality? That's the part that really bothers me a lot. Why are we stuck there? I mean, everything else around us is evolving. Why aren't we evolving spiritually?
I think we're coming out of it more and maybe faster now than even. It started in the 60s. Like before that, there were hardly anybody who really knew
Oh
how
shit!
it
If
was
we
for a
talk,
lot of reasons.
yeah.
But then, okay, Ram Dass, all the spiritual movement, the whatever, and now from then, what? We talked about this the other time off camera. He said something like, it was decided, almost without being decided, that all the enlightened, holy men or whatever could all come together and kind of live together and do their thing, or they could go out and teach or be available to teach the people who were receptive. And that's kind of what happened in, let's say, 1969, because from then and then kind of going on, there were more and more teachers and authors and people who popularized alternative ways of looking at things than had been before. And now, what is that, 1969 to, let's say, 1970 to 2020 is what, 50 years? Yeah.
Yeah, 50 years.
About 50 years, 51 years, let's say 50 years. Over that 50 years, I mean, look at all the stuff you can get on YouTube about religions and spirituality. And I'm going to jump briefly into my Facebook career versus I go on some theist versus atheist groups. And what was I going to say? The one of the things that I only just once or twice got to say this, but I think in the end, it's going to be, the discussion isn't going to be theism versus atheism, whether there's a God or not. It's going to be, how do we live? How do we live? Basically, is the only consideration.
After this, I think you might be right about that, because after after judgment has been passed, then people are going to come more to a position to where they want to understand the eternal Father, because there are going to be things that we are going to see here in the future very soon that are going to make people question everything
Yes.
about reality. It has nothing to do with aliens, by the way, but that will be one of the tools that is going to be used by the dark agents to try to fool people and to try to, because the last thing that they want us to really understand is that there is a whole universe of spirit beings. And once we begin to understand that, then we are going to want to explore it. And we are very, very quickly going to figure out that the only way to explore it is either die or to lift yourself up spiritually so high that you will be able to walk from this existence into the next existence as though you were walking from one room into another.
Right. And I remember what else I was going to say. I don't call myself a Christian, although technically I kind of am. I call myself a general spiritualist.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is that I kind of get pissed off with the word Christian, or even being labeled to it. But I think we had this discussion before, maybe off camera.
What is a Christian? It's basically someone who follows the teachings of Jesus. Be good to love your neighbor. Try to be the best person you can. You don't. He never said anything about dying for our sins or anything like that. That's BS.
Yeah. And basically. I think that and the thing is that the Christianity, the label Christianity is going to be redefined here very in the future.
Yeah, that's why I don't call myself it.
But right now, being called a Christian. But the thing is that I've struggled with it. There is no more comfortable label to use other than to say Christian or followers of Christ.
Right.
And I've seen other labels used in other texts and in different parts of the world. Then, the only other label which would be to me would probably be acceptable, and it's would be seeker.
Mm-hmm.
Seeker of truth.
Yeah.
And that would be another label that I could accept, but anything outside of that, it kind of ends up tying you to ancient belief systems, and those need to be discarded. So, and we need to evolve spiritually.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, especially all of this fucking blood fucking bullshit. God, people. Realize anything that has to do with a blood sacrifice is wholly satanic in nature. Period.
Yeah, from I came up with the I guess the judgment on blood magic or whatever. It's the least efficient and most destructive personally.
Yes.
Of all, there's tons of other lighter magics that work much better and are better for you.
Yes, they're better for you. I mean, herbal magic, yeah. Kitchen witches are my favorite people. They know how to bake bread. Oh my God, do they know how to bake bread? It smells so good, tastes so good. I mean, I love kitchen witches. They're the very best.
Never heard that term before, by the way.
A kitchen witch is that matron that you see in the kitchen, always cooking and experimenting. She may not know that she is a witch, but she's a kitchen witch.
Awesome.
Because they're always experimenting. That's what witches do. They experiment. Proper witches. I've never had a problem with witches.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of them that I know, they're not into the hokey pokey stuff. A lot of them play with herbs and stones, and they're on a spiritual path too.
Yeah.
They're just taking a different route. And and they'll come around because they'll see, especially when they interact with someone like me, because I'll tell them straight up. It's like, what? It's like everything is wrong, but you have one thing right. That is a divine spirit that rules the universe. I said, what you need to do is you need to understand what that divine spirit is. And once you understand that, you begin to understand all these other things that you think are gods or fairies or anything like that. They're not. These are just energies that you are working with. These are actually gifts from the Father to us to use. We just got to learn how to use them properly. It's no different. It's like every tool in your toolbox is a weapon if you choose to use it so.
Yes.
Or you can choose to use it to build something or to fix something.
Hmm.
But essentially, I open up my toolbox. There's like everything's a weapon. We were so bored on the farm sometimes that we would set up these feed bags full of straw, and we actually practiced throwing screwdrivers. There was one brand of screwdriver, I forget which brand it was.
Had the best balance, didn't
And
it?
it had the best balance. You could throw that and it would sink every time. I forget which brand. I think it was a Phillips brand. But yeah, those were our favorite screwdrivers. But yeah, we would do something. They were weapons. Wrench, hammer.
Yeah.
Every one of those tools have been used in some murder mystery novel at some point in history.
We'll just look at Clue.
Yeah,
What are the weapons? There's one gun and everything else. Well, a knife, but there's everything else is just some kind of a candlestick or a
random
rope or
thing
a
that's
pipe
been
or
laying around the house.
kind of thing. Yeah.
There was a movie that I watched. It was like it was a comedy, but no, maybe not. Maybe it was Zombieland. Anyways, I just laughed so hard because it seemed like everything in this movie led up to the climax, which was a showdown, a fight for their lives in a Home Depot. I was like,
I could just picture that. Oh
I
my
was
God.
just like, this is going. My son was watching the movie with. I looked at Samson and I was like, man, this is going to be the most epic scene in a movie ever. And
I
it
called
was.
the nail gun.
Yeah, and it was. Actually, I thought the scene could have been better. I was like, oh my God, it's like there's so much more. Go to the garden section, please. But yeah, I don't know which movie it was, but it was hilarious. Movies are fun. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with anything on this planet except the way that it is used.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just going to interject one of the affirmations, something I wrote on Facebook on my feed. How does it go? Oh yeah, knowledge, wisdom, power, in that order.
Knowledge, wisdom, power, in that order. I've heard that before, and it's true.
Yes.
It's true. You need to know. You need to know about shit first. Then you need to be able to put all of that knowledge together and develop keen wisdom. Then, maybe then, you'll be ready for power. And hopefully, between knowledge and wisdom, you built a character.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I can't even stress the importance of character building. The absolute, it's like the most important thing. I mean, how do you build character? Maybe that's something that we'll talk about sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get into
I'm going to
that.
write this down.
Yeah, how do you build a character? What are the necessary traits? I've given it lots of thought. And as near as I can tell, it's like, I guess the simplest thing is I've always, my measure of people's character is, what are the things that will fucking piss you off? You don't get pissed off about child pedophilia. I'm gonna pretty much guess that your fucking character is probably 0.5 millimeter thick. You get upset about it, then fucking that is measure of your character. You go do something about it, join the police force. I don't mean violence. Violence doesn't do any good. Violence is the recourse of the incompetent. And threats are for people that have nothing left to say.
Let me just interject something else from Ram Dass again. In one of his, I don't think it was Be Here Now, in fact I'm sure it's not, but one of his later talks, he was talking about how he and a group went to the Rocky Flats nuclear area. I don't know if it was a nuclear waste dump or a nuclear missile center or a nuclear reactor or whatever it was. It was nuclear something. And there were protests, I guess, active protests against nuclear, and I don't know if there were any for it or not, but what these people did, his group, they went and they just sat and they in a circle, I suppose, and meditated. And they wrote a statement, and as best I can remember it, it basically said that if you can't be in the now with your opinion about something, the best reaction is a neutral one, because, and we're seeing it today with the riots versus police, etc., etc. And I hope I can explain this well enough. It's action reaction, the thing like that. If you can't respond positively to something, or proactively, or in a constructive
then you're
way,
best to remain neutral.
then you're best to remain neutral, because you're
and that's
seeing what's happening.
Character.
What you are seeing is, on the one side, obviously we have the apparently low character people, and on the other side, somewhat as well. They're going at it back and forth. In high school, you had the sniping back and forth of, the popular folks at each other and all this stuff. Anyway, so
what's blowing my mind is that all of this is happening, and the violence is actually quite minimal.
Okay.
It is. I mean, yeah, cities are burning.
Yeah.
Business is getting looted, but compare that to the Civil War in the
Right.
1860s. I mean, it's relatively benign.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, the people living in those corrupt cities, are just suffering horribly. But, it's Gotham on steroids is what it is. Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, and and the thing is that after judgment, we have to help these people. We are obligated to help them. I know a lot of people are like, let them just die on the street. Yeah, sure, but don't you want to build your character? Don't you want to develop your character? Don't you want to present yourself as something worthy before your Creator?
Yeah, what better way than Jesus did it. He ministered to the lowest classes of society. His time, he went and hung out with them. He helped them out. He cured lepers. He did all this stuff. And for a contemporary thing, I guess, how do I want to say this? Helping out, forgiving some, and
he didn't give up
no
on the Pharisees.
No,
not until the very, very end.
He gave them every possible chance.
I mean, all kinds of examples in the New Testament. The Urantia has tons of way more examples of where he went way, way out of his way to help these people, to show them the light, but they just refused.
Yeah.
They wanted to keep their position. They wanted to keep their power. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's basically what we are going through today.
And the book, whatever, kind of doesn't go into this quite as much, but there's TV show episodes and stuff. There are people who were on what we would call the wrong side, and personal redemption is kind of a thing of mine, because it's so cool to see somebody who was on that side, and then when it's all over, they were like, oh my God, why did this was wrong? How can I be better? How can I help? How do I be like, you're so cool. You didn't
David
screw around
Bowie.
with all this stuff. how do I be like it? And then you're in a position to take these, and they are some of the best. If the ones who did bad things and realized they want to turn around sincerely, those are some of the most highest quality. Once that's happened, they are some of the highest quality people.
Yes, they are,
out
because
there.
they've walked the dark path. They know what's there. I mean, I went into that world, but I said it before. I've been in that world, but I was never part of it. I didn't give no oath. I didn't swear no allegiance. I just basically, I was like a ghost. I walked into the world, interacted, and then I walked right back out. And and it's like, and a lot of times I'd spend like maybe 5 6 months in these worlds, and then I would move out and I would get away, or something would happen that would give me the exit. I mean, I can't even list the examples of exits that the Father just placed before me when I've gone into these places and explored these dens of inequity, and I've explored, and then boom, the Father would open up an exit. It'd be just a big bright door. It's like, hey, you may want to take this right about now, and I'd just be like, you know what? You're right. I do want to take this right about now. And it's funny, right? It's like the Father just always just knew when I was ready to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And the exit always appeared just at the right time. Even even the times when my life was in danger, there would just, and it would just be like this half second. That's all I would get, is just like half a second, and I would just quickly start the process of getting the hell out of there. I mean, I can't even tell you, knives to my throat, guns to my head. And then all of a sudden somebody would open up a door. Oops, sorry. And then I would duck out very, very quickly. I'd get to where there were people. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, just those, I'd just be like, yep, we won't be going back there.
So as far as kind of tie back what we were talking about with the what we're seeing with the light and dark and all the unrest, I guess, let's call it, and then prayer, I guess, and what else was I going to say? Not only do these people, the ones who have been there and then choose to go to the light, they get massive credit, and the ones of us who minister to them also will be, I suppose we would get probably some kind of commendation for.
The thing is that
It builds character. Okay, yeah.
It builds
I'm
character.
trying not to use these material things like commendations, and I'm trying not to speak to our egos, but sometimes I kind of have to make a point. But it builds our character, and character is extremely important.
Nothing wrong with a healthy ego.
It's a tool. Yeah,
It's a
something
tool.
else that Ramdas said: the rational mind is an excellent servant and a terrible master.
Yeah, and that's our ego. Our ego
Yeah.
is can be a wonderful servant, but if you allow your ego to take control, take the wheel, it's a path to self destruction every time, because the ego is solely motivated, mostly by aggression. And aggression can take many, many forms. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so, threats and other things, people do it all the time. Or it will keep you from admitting your faults. It will blind you to the truth. And,
Yes.
so that you don't see what's right in front of you. And that's important too. We got to, always got to be looking at our faults. And just being like, well, what can I do today to improve myself?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I sort of just kind of keep one thought in mind. It's like, what kind of memory can I create today to present to the Father when I appear before Him?
Okay.
That, so I mean, so when you end up in a situation that, where you have choices, it's like, do I want to be an asshole in this situation? I mean, we basically, do you want to present this situation to your eternal Father? No? Then think of something else, do something else, make a different decision. You know, that's all you got to do. And I don't know. How does a person know right from wrong, right?
Yeah, well, I have, I want to call it a built-in diagnostic system that runs in the background. It's like looking at everything I do and think and whatever, and it's like, is this the, you know, sometimes it works better than others, but it's always there kind of analyzing everything I am doing or have done if I kind of forget. Yeah, so.
And then, you know what, I sometimes, I know exactly what you mean, and I think to myself sometimes, it's like, you know, is this practice for later? Like, you know, because later on, when we're out in the universe, we're going to have power. I've said it before. It's like the genie in the bottle. All the power of the universe, little bitty living space. And that will be us. And if you don't have control of your mind and your emotion, then you could end up being in trouble. This is what is meant by being at one with the will of the Father. When you are at one with the will of the Father and you fuse with your thought adjuster, then you can be given that power, because your will is the Father's will, and everything that you do always goes right back. What would the Father do? And basically, part of our assignment, eternal assignment, is just discovering what is the will of the Father. And I mean, and you'll start with the simple stuff. Okay, well, we know that it's not the will of the Father for us to destroy each other. Okay, so we don't destroy each other. Okay, boom. Step one to following the will of the Father. Now what's step two? Oh, the Father, and Jesus laid it all out before us anyways. Brotherhood of man, community supporting each other. These are all things that are the will of the Father, and these are things that we should be doing, to be and constantly helping each other, lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down. Tearing each other down. That's a Luciferian concept. It's Lucifer was all about Lucifer believed that mind was perfect. And so and so everything that you did was to serve your own mind, self-service. And so whatever popped into his fucked up brain, he, just must have been a good idea to him.
Didn't have a backup, what that thing that I was talking about, the filter.
Yeah.
Or the thing to compare template. I don't know what would I even call it, but it's like if I think a second, or most people say, is this you have an impulse, and it's like, oh, is this a good idea? Or sometimes you get going in a certain direction, and they think, oh, well, is this a good idea? Maybe I should stop. Anyway, so.
And that's what mind is. Mind runs on impulse, whereas spirit is deliberate. And that's why when you follow the spirit path, patience. You stop and you think about everything. The Son of Man stopped and thought about everything. His mind just moved a lot fucking quicker than ours. That's all, and he was able to come to sound decisions in a very, very short period of time. That's what set him above all other men. I mean, what took us 10 seconds to realize took him less than one. It was just, boom. That's why he seemed to his apostles just to be superhuman, not because of his physical attributes, but because of his mental attributes. He was just a lot quicker thinker. And everything that he did always took into account the people around him. He didn't, he wanted to get away from his family. His family was whacked. especially his mother. I mean, she didn't let go of that promise from that Gabriel made. You know, you're gonna give birth to a child of promise. I mean, she held on to that, and she wanted him to have miracles. She wanted him to be king. I mean, no different than any mother, right? And so, I mean, Jesus was just like, woman, you are whacked out of your mind, but I love you, but you're still whacked. I mean, that was pretty much his attitude. And, it didn't take him very long to train his younger brother, James, to take care of the finances of the family. He wanted, it's like, James, you take over. And, as he was training James to take over, he was spending more and more time over at the Zebedees in the next town over. He's, first he came over once a week, just to make sure, check on things, help James out if he needed a hand with anything. And then once he started seeing that when he came over every week that shit was getting done or it was already done, then he moved it to a month. And then he'd come down every month and, help out, drop off the money that he made at the Zebedees and, everything like that. And, and then he started to see that, well, shit, James, you got this. I think after a year, James had it. Jesus didn't have to worry about his family anymore. James took care of everything. His widowed mother, his younger brothers and sisters, taken care of. And Jesus is like, great, one less thing to think about. And then that's when he got the offer to go and travel with a caravan for a while. And he was like, he talked to his family about it. James was like, hey, brother, you know what? You've done so much for us. You go do this. You got to do this. And we know it's something that you want. We're not going to hold you back. I've got this. He raised he raised his brothers and sisters right. Responsible. And, and he bailed for like 18 months, and traveled and got to meet people and talk to people and explore. I mean, what, people think that he never left his hometown? How would you ever gain wisdom being stuck in one spot? I don't know how you could.
What did he do? He got to talk to a gentleman and his son from India.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went with the was that? I don't remember.
No, it was
this was all different stuff. So
yeah,
he went around the local area with the gentleman and his son from India.
Yeah.
And then at another time, he traveled with a caravan. And he did all this.
That caravan. No, he was in charge of that caravan.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, he was in charge of that.
He ran the caravan terminal.
Yeah,
worked at the caravan terminal.
That was after his adventure with the father and son from India.
Yes.
Then after they went back to India, he ended up getting he went as far east as he could. Like, they were getting on a boat for India. That's how far east Jesus went. And then he stopped. And then he had to make his way back home. So he figured the easiest way to make his way back home, since he already had a good reputation, he applied for a job with another caravan. And when the guy that owned the caravan found out who he was like, buddy, you're not only going to work for me, you're going to be in charge of this shit. Because he was just good at what he did. And, and so so I was like, yeah, okay then. So he was in charge of that whole caravan. And he didn't go directly home. I think he went to Egypt. And then he hung out in Egypt for a little bit. And then he went to this Greek, what would be the equivalent of a university today. And so he ended up there, and he taught for like 6 or 7 months. And maybe 8. He was there a while. And he taught and spoke and was able to speak with other scholars. And they had great discussions. I mean, they loved him. Like, they missed him when he left. And then he moved on from there, and he ended up making tents for a while in Damascus. Man's got to make a living. And then eventually he made his way back to Zebedee's boathouse. He didn't even go home and visit his family. They came up to Zebedee's. It's like, so you're back? And he was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, great. Well, we all, we kind of thought you're dead, but you know what? We're glad you're alive. And the Zebedees were sending money to his family the whole time, because before, when he was working with the Zebedees, him and the elder Zebedee, him and Jesus designed a new type of fishing boat. They designed a new boat, and they built them, and Zebedee promised Jesus 10% of every sale. Oh yeah, that shit added up.
Nice.
They bought him a house. He didn't even know. Like, on his way out the door, what was it? David Zebedee was like, hey buddy, we got all this money that that we owe you. What do you want us to do with it? On his way out the door, he was like, I trust you. Just make sure my family's taken care of. And so he walked out the door. And so they're like, we got all of this money, and so they're like, well, we got to invest it. We can't just hang on to it. So they bought him a house. Yeah. And they rented the house out for a while, and then, that tied up all of all the money that Jesus had. So that was good. At least his money was like not being just hoarded. So, they paid the mortgage on it. They did everything. And then they sold that house before Jesus even got back from his trip. So they bought and sold the house in the 2 years that he was traveling.
They basically managed it for him.
They managed it for him. So, he comes back, and he still has all this money. And he was like, well, so it was basically wedding gifts for his brothers and sisters when they got married. He just loaded them up. They were set up for success. They didn't have to worry about a damn thing. Not bad for a carpenter's son when you think about it, And and then he carried on. Then he worked in the boathouse for almost another year after he got back. And and people think that he just picked these apostles up, and they didn't even know him. No, they knew him. At least half the apostles knew him intimately, at least half, because they lived right in the town where Zebedee's boathouse was, and where he worked.
They knew him personally, and I think the other half knew of him, surely.
Yes, they knew of him.
Most of the others.
That's why it didn't
who
take.
He was.
Yeah, they didn't take much convincing for them to come along. Some of them didn't know, but the way that their friend described him, they were like, because they were like looking, they were awake, they were looking for the Messiah.
Yeah.
And so some of the first 6 apostles, at least half of them secretly believed he was the Messiah just by talking with him at the boathouse. See, you guys don't understand. He was ministering to his fellow man during lunch and after work. He was ministering. They'd, he would go out and visit people. He didn't just stay home. He was out in the community. He spoke in the synagogue at least once a month. And every time people heard that, oh my goodness, Oshawa's going to speak this, on the Sabbath. Boom, there was standing room only in the synagogue. They knew him, and they loved when he spoke. And they always walked away with something whenever he spoke in the synagogue. And Peter was always fascinated with Jesus. And Peter was a fisherman. He met Jesus many, many times for boat repairs and net repairs. Because these were the things that were being done as Zebedee's place of business. I mean, just think of, basically Zebedee's was that garage that everybody hung out at. It really was. And so, and Jesus would talk to them, and he was like, and he had such a strong character, people were just drawn to him. And when he finally, this is the one, I love this part of the story so much. I tell it to my kids, and they love it too. He's working away in Zebedee's, okay? Like before this, right? His friends around him, John and I think Mark Zebedee. And they would be like, it's like, when are you gonna, when are you gonna let the world know? And his brothers, and well, that's why he didn't go see his mother too often, is because that was always she was always on his ass about that, and he just got tired of it. No different than any one of us get tired of it, right? Parents like, when are you gonna go to college? That was the equivalent. When are you gonna be the child of promise that I know you are? She wouldn't say it like that, but that would be, but that's pretty much how Jesus felt. And so, they all knew this, right? And he always said, just waiting on, the will of my Father. Don't worry about it. Just waiting on the will of my Father. That's all they ever heard from this guy. And then, one day, two of his brothers came by, and they're talking with the Zebedee brothers. And the Zebedees were just basically Jesus' extended family. I mean, they loved him, and he loved them back, and and so he overhears the conversation about John the Baptist. John the Baptist is close by. He's like a day's walk away, okay, and so they're talking about it, and they're like, we're thinking of, and his brothers are like talking to the Zebedees brothers, and they're like, well, we're thinking about heading down. We want to go see John, And mind you, nobody really knows that John is Jesus' cousins. None of these guys know, okay? Because him and John, they haven't hung out. They hung out once in their teenage years for like a week, and then they decided that they would not meet each other again unless it was the will of the Father, okay? So basically told John to go home and take care of his mother, and John did until his mother passed away. And then John started his ministry. And then, so anyways, they're sitting there, they're talking about John, and Jesus overhears the conversation, and just like that, he takes off his leather apron, folds it up neatly, places his tools on the apron, and he says, "It is time for me to be about my Father's work." And believe it or not, those guys that were talking over in the corner, they're like, "Whoa, what the fuck just happened here?" Like, they stopped, like, their conversation stopped immediately. Jesus walks out by them, and they're like, "Are you serious, buddy?" It's like, you're heading down to John? Yeah, it's time for me to be about my Father's work. They packed a lunch, they packed everything they needed to fucking travel, and Jesus was already on the road, and they're like packing all this shit as fast as they can, and they're running to catch up to him. They're like, "Yeah, you're not leaving without us, buddy. Yeah, we've heard this whole thing about you waiting on your Father. It's time. Yeah, and if you say it's time, we're there." And so they went, boom, all the way down, and then I think they got to the river where John was by noon hour, I think the next day. And, because they left noon hour the day before. And so, they might have got there at 9 in the morning. I forget. Anyways, so they get there, and they wait in line. And they're like chit-chatting the whole time. Jesus doesn't have a whole lot to say. He's kind of, meditating, and they've known Jesus long enough not to disturb him while he's meditating. So they don't, so they just kind of watch him and, make sure, that he's, taken care of, that nobody's going to bump him or anything like that. So till finally they get to the first of the line, and boom, there they all, three of them, maybe, well, three for sure, are standing before John. John recognizes Jesus right away, and he's like, "What the hell?" And then Jesus just looked at John and was like, "My Father's time has come." And John was just like, and then Jesus leaned forward, and he's just like, "Just go with it, buddy. Just go with it. Don't think about it. Just go with it." That's how he had to tell John that. And John was like, "Okay, I'll go with it. If you say you wanted me to baptize you, I'm not going to argue with you," because he didn't want to get into an argument with John in the river, right? And so John's like, "Okay, buddy, you want me to do it? I'll do it." So he did. And that is when Jesus remembered that he was Michael. He suspected it all along, his whole life, but he couldn't, those memories weren't there. And then as soon as he went under the water, all those memories came flooding back. Time stopped for him.
Wow.
He was suspended there for probably what felt like an eternity. And all of his memories come rushing back. Then, he knew exactly who he was. He understood he was the creator of the universe. Can you imagine that? He suspected it, but he wasn't, sometimes he thought he was going a little mad. But then, boom, all of that came back to him.
Confirmation.
Confirmation complete. And he came back up out of the water, and all of them swear that they heard a voice coming from heaven. And we all know what that voice said. And that is what they will swear. They swore to that happening right to their grave. The people that were witnessing to that. And then, while they were all stunned by this voice that they were hearing from the sky, Jesus calmly walks up out of the water, walks through the crowd, and keeps on walking. Walks right up into the mountains. And by the time they realize that Jesus is not standing beside them, they're just like, where did he go? They just like, they were just gone in their minds, right? And then he spent the next 40 days up in the wilderness. But before he went up into the wilderness, there was a nearby town. This is the part that, and I thought, the Rancho book was, I was glad that it told this story. Because he went into this town, nearby town, and he hired a boy to bring him food. And the boy got paid enough to do the job, and Jesus instructed him to place food in this spot every day, and he made the boy swear that he would not tell anybody what he was doing. Made the boy swear he would not say anything. And so the boy was taking food up the mountain and didn't tell anybody that he was doing it. And meanwhile, everybody, they were looking for Jesus, and they couldn't find him. A couple of times they came close, but then they gave up, and they went back home after, they looked for him for like 3 days. Couldn't find him, they went back home. And then Jesus appears back at the Zebedee's boathouse. And everybody's like, we thought you died. He was like, no, I just had to go have a conversation with my dad. And then that's when he picked his first 6. And then he ministered them to that night and started teaching them that very day. And I think he taught them for like a week. And then he was like, okay, go out and find, each one of you find somebody. Sent them out in pairs, and he's like, bring me back 2, 1 each. And so that's what they did. And they each went out and they found the other half. And introduced them to Jesus, and Jesus is like, yep, okay, you're willing to follow me? And they're like, yepper. And he's like, good enough, let's do it. And that started it right then and there. And Zebedee cleared out his, and when David told his dad that Jesus said it was time for him to be about his father's business, this is how much faith they had in Jesus. The Zebedees cleared out their house. They cleared it out. They moved out and gave it to Jesus and the apostles. Just gave them the house. It's like, buddy, yours. Just like that. Yours. And the Zebedees, the senior, Zachariah Zebedee, he moved out, and him and his wife, they moved into a smaller house. Like, they were living in, like, what would be they were living in a big house. They were living large. And then they downsized that shit and moved into a smaller house so that Jesus would have a place to teach his disciples. That's how much faith this family had in him. Just like that, without hesitation. The other thing I love about this family was David Zebedee. When Jesus' ministry started taking off, David seen the need for Jesus's apostles to communicate with each other.
Yeah, he had a messenger service, or he set up a messenger service.
Set
he just did
it
that.
up.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy had phenomenal organization skills. Phenomenal. Not only was he taking care of the family business, but he was taking care of Jesus's business as well. And it's like, and that was probably the most phenomenal thing. At one point, what did he have? Damn near 200 runners?
Something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Lots.
Just running back and forth across the countryside. This was the equivalent to the internet back then. And each one of those runners just run and delivering messages back and forth, picking up, grabbing donations on the way. I mean, it was great for the runners. I mean, they would drop by a house, and they would be certain designated houses that they would stop by. These were like real, true, faithful followers of Jesus. And then those guys would say, okay, go to this house and this house and this house. And they would go to these different houses, and shit, not only were they picking up donations, they were getting fed. They'd get a donation and a packed lunch all at the same time. It's like, here you go, water, hey, you need water, here you go. Like, they were taken care of. Nobody asked the people that were donating to do this. They just felt it was the right thing to do. Isn't that amazing? And this is the example that Jesus wanted us to have, is helping each other, community, and people were doing this. I mean, this was novel, especially in a time when religion was law.
Right.
And these people were essentially committing heresy. Especially like helping like Gentiles. Yeah, and a lot of the runners were Gentiles. They weren't all Jews.
Yeah, it was a mix. It keeps saying over and over again that it was a mixed group.
It was a mixed group. There were Greeks in there. There were Sumerians. There were Egyptians. Yeah. Just about every culture you can think of in that area was involved.
Yes.
And Jesus did not discriminate. He welcomed everyone. And that sort of kind of pissed off pissed off the Jews, confused his apostles.
Yeah.
That was one of the hardest things that they had to get over, was their xenophobia. They struggled with that hard. That was a nice little detour.
Yeah. So do we want to wind it up here, or do we want to? Is there anything else we want to?
I don't know. I think I got that story out because it felt like it was important that people heard it.
Sure.
So for whatever reason, I don't even bother questioning this shit anymore.
Yeah, no.
I just do it, and So.
And then I guess as far as our theme for right now is prayer. So I think what we were talking about last time was that prayer acts like a beacon, and it directs.
40 bus loads of students, university students, descended on Washington, D.C. for a huge prayer day. That went under your radar?
I didn't see it.
Oh, man, there must have been, God, there must have been like well over 100,000 people on the parade grounds by the obelisk.
Okay. Wow.
Oh, yeah. They were all praying. They were all standing and praying, asking, and I was just like, my mind just went boom. I was just like, wow. I mean, what that has done for the world, the United States and the world, unbelievable. Of course, you got the normal insults from the atheist and from the left. Oh, praying to your invisible sky god, rah 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 rah. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard all of it. The spaghetti monster. Yeah, but but I was just like, these people do not understand that our emotion has an effect. When you can, look at what was discovered back in the 90s by by Dr. Ashimoto about water,
Yeah.
and the power our emotions have on water. And and the best part is, you can perform this experiment at home if you want to like really solidify your belief in how like a human intent can really influence things. There's tons of videos on YouTube about the rice experiment. It's like the mystery of water, the truth of water, and basically 3 jars of rice, boiled rice, in 3 sterilized jars. Label 1 neutral, label 1 hate, label 1 love, and you set the neutral one up on the shelf. You keep the one that you want to love close to you, and you give it all kinds of love and affection. The one that you hate, you actively ignore it and ridicule, and yeah, the results will blow your fucking mind. Unbelievable. Yeah, all I can say is, guess which one's going to mold first. Yeah, and the control that you put up on the shelf, yeah, that just goes to show you the effect, so that you don't think that it's a time thing. Yeah, no, the one that you ignored up on the shelf, yeah, it will disintegrate far, far, far behind the one that you are giving hate to. The one that you are giving hate to will rot much, much quicker than the neutral. Blew my mind. That's all I can say. Blew my mind. And yeah, our intention does do something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for watching.